This story is one I posted a few months ago, but I felt compelled to come back and share updates because things have escalated in ways I could never have imagined. To give a brief refresher, my wife's sister, Mary, has been making my life hell for 6 years. She has been blatantly flirting with me since the day I met her, but things took a sharp turn when she tried to kiss me in the garage at a recent family gathering. When I rejected her, she escalated further by sending an explicit photo to my office, seemingly in an attempt to get me fired. It has all been a nightmare, and now I am left trying to pick up the pieces of my wife Jenna's shattered self-esteem. To provide some context, Jenna is an incredible woman, absolutely gorgeous in every way, but she has struggled with severe body image issues for as long as I have known her. A lot of this stems from growing up in the shadow of her sister Mary, who is conventionally attractive in that classic model kind of way. Jenna, by contrast, has a striking alternative beauty that I have always found far more compelling. Mary, who used to be a successful model and now works in the fashion industry, has always seemed to have a knack for undermining Jenna, whether intentionally or not. That's when Jenna opened up about how much Mary had impacted her growing up. Their whole lives, they were cast into this toxic, smart one versus pretty one dynamic by everyone around them. Jenna also admitted that Mary had a long-standing habit of flirting with her boyfriends and that it was almost like a game to her sister. She warned me that Mary would try to do the same to me. At the time, I thought she was just projecting her insecurities, but she started crying and begged me not to let Mary come between us. I reassured her as firmly as I could. I would never cheat on her, with anyone, let alone her sister. Jenna is my world, and I made it crystal clear that no one could ever come close to her in my eyes. But Jenna was right. Mary's behavior quickly became impossible to ignore. Every time we attended a family gathering, Mary found ways to make inappropriate comments or touch me in ways that were far from innocent. She would brush against me unnecessarily, make suggestive jokes, or outright compliment my body in front of everyone. It was so uncomfortable, not just for me, but especially for Jenna, who would be upset for days afterward. I started calling Mary out when it happened, and while she would back off temporarily, the cycle always repeated. For 6 years, this pattern has persisted, and it has taken a toll on Jenna's mental health and our relationship. Now on to the most recent and worst incident. A few days ago, we attended Jenna's mom's birthday party. At some point during the evening, Mary asked me to help her grab some items from the garage. I should have known better than to agree, but I wanted to avoid making a scene. As soon as we were alone in the garage, Mary pressed her entire body against me and tried to kiss me. I was stunned and immediately pushed her off, asking her what the hell she was doing. She just giggled and said, "Come on, you know you want to. We both know this has been building up." I told her she was out of her mind and bolted out of there, my heart pounding. I went straight to Jenna and told her we needed to leave. She could tell something was wrong and kept pressing me about it on the way home. I didn't want to tell her at first because I knew how much it would hurt her, but I also knew that Mary would likely try to twist the situation against me. So I told Jenna everything. She cried the entire way home, her tears breaking my heart with every mile. The fallout has been even worse than I anticipated. Over the past several days, Mary has been texting and calling Jenna, feeding her lies. She told Jenna that I said she was the hottest woman I had ever seen, an outright fabrication. Jenna believes my account of what happened, but that doesn't make it any less painful for her. She has been in an awful state, barely eating, withdrawing from me physically and emotionally. When I try to comfort her, she pulls away, telling me she feels ugly and disgusting. It is devastating to see her like this, and I feel completely powerless to help her heal. Reddit, I am at a loss. I love my wife more than anything, and seeing her broken like this is unbearable. How can I help her rebuild her confidence? How do we move forward when her own sister has caused so much damage? I am desperate for advice. Update 1. I got several requests for updates, so here it is. First, I want to take a moment to genuinely thank every single one of you who offered advice, support, and thoughtful comments. Your words were not just helpful, but deeply insightful, and they gave me so much to think about. I am especially grateful to those of you who asked about my well-being. It hit me that I have never really taken the time to check in with myself after everything that has happened. Honestly, I have been holding on to a lot of frustration and resentment, and this has been a wake-up call to address that. For years, I have been subjected to harassment, and each time it was either minimized or overshadowed by the impact it had on my wife. Let me be clear, I do not blame her for this, but I am learning an important lesson here. Burying my feelings to prioritize others, even for someone I love as much as her, is not healthy. This journey has made me realize how much I need to advocate for myself too. I also want to clarify a few things that came up in the comments. Many of you asked how my wife's family feels about all of this. I explained in a comment, but I will say it again here. Her family is toxic. Her parents, in particular, have always treated Mary as the golden child. This is despite the fact that my wife is, by any measure, an extraordinary human being. She is a neuroscientist, an incredibly talented musician, fluent in 3 languages and conversational in 2 more. Yet somehow her own family does not seem to recognize or celebrate her brilliance. It is mind-blowing. I remember once meeting a family friend of hers and bringing up her groundbreaking research. Their response? Oh, her parents just said she works at a university. Meanwhile, my parents proudly introduce her as the family genius at every opportunity. The contrast makes me so angry I can hardly articulate it. Her family has stolen her shine for her entire life. And for what? They only seem to care about superficial things like looks and money, while my wife is quite literally a Renaissance woman. It is infuriating. Some of you also questioned why I would ever put myself in a situation alone with Mary, given her history. Honestly, I do not have a great answer for that. I just never thought she would actually do anything. The possibility did not even register in my mind. Looking back now, I can see how naive that was. I should have anticipated this and been more proactive in setting boundaries. Instead, I prioritized keeping the peace, and now we are here. Hindsight really is 2020. Now, onto the actual update. The night I posted my last update, I had a long conversation with my wife. I told her that if she wanted to try to repair her relationship with her sister, I would support her decision. However, I made it clear that I do not feel comfortable being around Mary for the foreseeable future. I also did not hold back about my feelings. I told her that Mary has been jealous of her for her entire life, because Mary is a hollow, insecure person whose self-worth is tied to things that will not last, while my wife's brilliance and character have true substance. I did not stop there. I told her that her entire family is toxic and has done nothing but put her down for as long as I have known them. I said that only she can decide whether or not she wants them in her life going forward. I also told her, very gently, that while I do not blame her for her initial reaction to everything, her insecurities are something she needs to work on. This is crucial not just for her well-being, but for the health of our relationship. What Mary did to me was sexual assault, and she has been sexually harassing me for years. I have put my own feelings aside again and again because I was so focused on how this affected my wife. That was a mistake. I need support too. And suppressing my emotions has only made things worse for both of us. I told her that by letting Mary's behavior affect her self-esteem, she is essentially giving Mary power she does not deserve. We cannot allow her to have that kind of control over our lives. Finally, I shared something that one of you said in the comments, which really stuck with me. The only people who have ever considered her second best are her and her family. Everyone else sees her for the incredible person she truly is. That seemed to hit her hard. She cried through most of the conversation, but ultimately agreed that she needs to go to therapy to address her insecurities. Since then, we have made progress. We found a therapist who specializes in body image and self-esteem issues for her to see individually. We are also in the process of finding a couples therapist. My wife sent a message to her parents and Mary, explaining what happened and letting them know that she will only reach out if and when she feels ready to rebuild their relationship. We blocked all of them on every platform, but predictably, Mary has been spamming my friends and family with lies, claiming I attacked her, that I am a drug addict, that I abuse my wife. Thankfully, no one believes her nonsense. My wife is still struggling, but I can see small signs of improvement. She is eating and sleeping more consistently, and she has started cuddling with me in the mornings again, which feels like such a gift. To help lift her spirits, I am planning a surprise getaway for us this weekend. I am taking her to one of our favorite places, where I plan to wine and dine her and remind her that she is the queen she deserves to feel like. Once again, thank you all. Your insights have been invaluable, and I truly appreciate you helping me not only understand the gravity of this situation, but also reconnect with my own feelings. You are all amazing. Update 2. First, I want to start by addressing the many questions I've received about Mary's identity. To clarify, I'm not going to reveal who she is. From what I understand, she made a living as a model for about a decade, though she never achieved the kind of fame that would make her a household name. I suppose she was popular enough in the fashion world that industry insiders might recognize her, but I really don't know much about how that world operates. Regardless, in my opinion, fame is relative. If you don't have a Wikipedia page, you're not famous, no matter how many names you can drop. I've also received countless comments, mostly lighthearted, calling me a simp. I won't deny it. I totally am a simp for my wife. She's amazing, and I feel incredibly lucky to have her in my life. I genuinely hope everyone finds a love that makes them feel the way she makes me feel. All right, with that out of the way, let me get into the actual update. After everything that had happened, I planned a getaway weekend for my wife. It was just the two of us, and we had an incredible time. By the end of the trip, she told me she finally felt like herself again. For a few days after we returned home, everything seemed calm, and we dared to hope that Mary had finally decided to leave us alone. But deep down, I had a nagging feeling that it wasn't over. Many of you warned me that Mary might try to interfere with my work. At first, I brushed off those concerns, but eventually, I decided it was better to be safe than sorry. I reached out to my boss, who has known me for nearly a decade, and gave her a heads up about the situation. Thankfully, I didn't have to explain much since she was already aware of Mary from times I had vented about her before. My boss assured me that she knew my true character and promised to let me know if Mary attempted anything. As it turns out, your predictions were spot on. Just a few days later, Mary contacted my boss. According to my boss, Mary claimed that I was a predator and insisted I needed to be fired immediately. She even claimed to have proof of an incident where I supposedly assaulted her. My boss, to her credit, took the accusation seriously, but wasn't about to act without evidence. She asked Mary what proof she had. Mary's response? She said there was video footage of the incident. My boss calmly requested that she send the video. Mary quickly backtracked, claiming that the police had the footage. My boss then asked her to provide a copy of the police report instead. Mary, clearly flustered, said the report contained sensitive information, and she didn't feel comfortable sharing it. My boss offered a solution. Mary could redact any private details and send the rest. At this point, Mary became agitated, accused my boss of victim blaming, and abruptly hung up the phone. Unfortunately, this wasn't the end of Mary's antics. Last Wednesday, an email was sent to my entire office from my personal email account. The email included a highly inappropriate photo, a dick pic, that was definitely not mine. I can only assume that Mary managed to gain access to my email, likely because I had left it logged in on one of my in-laws' devices during a previous visit. She isn't tech-savvy enough to hack me, so that's the only explanation I can think of. And, as ridiculous as this might sound, the photo she chose was something else. I've been in locker rooms and on sports teams my whole life. I've seen my fair share of anatomy. But this? It was truly bizarre. I couldn't help but laugh at the idea of Mary combing through countless images, searching for the perfect one to use. After the initial shock, I immediately apologized to everyone at work. To my surprise, my coworkers were incredibly understanding. In fact, it turned into an oddly positive experience. People I didn't even think liked me went out of their way to show kindness and support. It was an unexpected silver lining in an otherwise humiliating situation. At this point, it was clear that we had to escalate things legally. My wife and I didn't want to go down this road, but Mary left us no choice. With the help of a lawyer friend, we drafted a cease and desist letter. The letter detailed her ongoing harassment and outlined the emotional and material damage she had caused. My wife sent a copy of the letter to Mary and her parents, making it clear that we would pursue legal action, criminal and/or civil, if her behavior continued. What happened next was infuriating but not surprising. My wife's mother called her in tears, begging her to let it go and leave Mary alone. My wife, however, stood her ground. She calmly explained that Mary was the sole cause of this entire ordeal and that her parents' continued enabling of Mary's behavior was a big part of the problem. Then, in a moment of frustration, my wife said something she later regretted, but I personally thought was badass. Mary is going to stick you in a nursing home and steal your money the first chance she gets. And honestly, you deserve it. That conversation was the final straw for my wife. She made the difficult decision to cut ties with her family completely. On Sunday, Mary's best friend messaged my brother on Facebook, claiming that Mary had decided to leave us alone and was begging us not to sue her. I told my brother to ignore the message. Instead, I took a moment to relish the thought of Mary panicking, finally facing the consequences of her actions. Since then, things have been quiet. My wife has started therapy and plans to begin couples therapy in a month or two, wanting to do some personal work first. She's also taking a short leave from work to rest and recharge. I'm incredibly proud of her for standing up for herself, prioritizing her mental health, and taking control of her life. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and support. This situation was messy, but your insights helped us navigate it with some semblance of grace. For the first time in a long time, it feels like we're finally getting back to normal. Update 3. Hello everyone, I completely forgot about this account until today, and logging back in to see so many comments and messages asking for an update has been incredibly touching. It's overwhelming in the best way to know how many of you care about this situation and want the best for me and my wife. I wasn't planning on making this a regular thing, but here's a brief update because I feel it's important to bring closure to this chapter. The situation with Mary and my in-laws has improved dramatically. For the most part, they've left us alone. My mother-in-law still attempts to reach out to my wife every now and then, but Jenna has set a firm boundary. She's made it crystal clear to her family that unless the first words out of their mouths are, "I'm sorry," she's not interested in having a conversation. Let me just say, watching her step into this newfound confidence has been awe-inspiring. The past 6 months have turned her into a force to be reckoned with. Jenna has been working so hard in therapy, and the results are undeniable. Her confidence is growing every single day. It's not just with her family. She's more assertive at work, with friends, with strangers, even with me. She's finally stopped tolerating some of my less than stellar habits. For instance, I have this tendency to leave my socks all over the house, and she's called me out on it. And you know what? I'm proud of her for that. She's teaching me to be more mindful and responsible because she communicates her needs and expectations without guilt or hesitation. This shift has made our relationship stronger. I've learned how to express my feelings without letting intense emotions derail the conversation. To give you some context I didn't share before, Jenna has always struggled with rejection sensitivity. Not just with her family, but in general. If I ever brought up an issue, her initial reaction was often so emotionally intense that it overshadowed the problem itself. Instead of addressing what needed to change, we'd end up navigating her feelings of guilt and inadequacy. Therapy has given her the tools to handle these situations differently. Now, when we discuss something that needs attention, she doesn't automatically think she is the problem. This growth has been nothing short of life-changing. And here's the biggest news of all. Jenna is pregnant. We're expecting a baby girl in February, and I am absolutely over the moon. Excitement doesn't even begin to describe it. I'm practically bursting with joy and nerves. We are so ready to love her with everything we have. From day one, we want her to know that she's more than just her looks. She'll have parents who adore each other and who will model what it means to work through challenges as a team. The toxic cycles of the past stop here. Jenna's family doesn't know about the pregnancy yet. And honestly, she's undecided about whether she'll even tell them. If she does, it will be on her terms, with strong boundaries in place. Family therapy would be non-negotiable before they could play any role in our daughter's life. But for now, our little girl already has one set of grandparents, my parents, who would move heaven and earth for her. That's more than enough. My family has been nothing short of amazing. Their support has been unwavering, and their excitement for us has been heartwarming. For the first time in a long time, things feel stable and hopeful. Life is better than it's ever been, and I'm so grateful to be in this place. That's all for now, folks. Thank you again for your key. Update 4. Hi everyone! I didn't think I'd be back with another update so soon, but here we are. I'm reaching out because I could really use some advice again. Jenna and I welcomed our baby girl in February, and she's absolutely perfect. Parenting has been a whirlwind, but we're doing great overall. Shortly after her birth, we decided to move out of Jenna's home state and closer to my family in Massachusetts. It's been a huge change, but having my parents nearby has been a blessing. They've been incredibly supportive, especially as we navigate the challenges of having a newborn. Since cutting contact with Jenna's family, we've done everything we can to maintain boundaries, including blocking them on every platform and keeping our address private. We didn't tell them about the baby, and we haven't seen them since going no contact. But yesterday, a letter arrived in the mail from Jenna's parents. We have no idea how they got our address. The letter was emotional and detailed. Apparently, Jenna's father has been diagnosed with late-stage cancer and may only have weeks left to live. They wrote about their regrets, apologizing for the way they treated Jenna throughout her life and acknowledging how they mishandled the situation with Mary. The letter also mentioned that they'd recently learned about the baby through mutual acquaintances and expressed a deep desire to meet their grandchild. They went on to explain how they hoped to earn our forgiveness over time, and they even offered to attend family therapy to repair the relationship. I'll be honest, the apology sounded sincere to me. It wasn't one of those vague, empty gestures. They outlined what they did wrong, expressed remorse, and admitted they should have handled things differently. Jenna, however, isn't buying it. She feels it's too little, too late. In fact, she suspects they might be lying about her father's cancer as a ploy to guilt us into reconciliation and gain access to the baby. I know it sounds extreme, but given their history, I can't entirely dismiss the possibility. I want to respect Jenna's feelings and decisions, but I also worry she might regret not taking this opportunity if her father's diagnosis is real. I brought this up gently, but she was adamant and didn't want to discuss it further. For now, I've decided to give her space and let the initial shock wear off before revisiting the conversation. Here's the thing. We're both exhausted from dealing with a baby who's still struggling with sleep. The lack of rest has us both on edge, and I can't help but wonder if it's clouding our judgment. I don't want to push Jenna into anything, but I also don't want her to carry regret later on. What would you do in this situation? Should I try bringing it up again or let it go entirely? Edit. Please, be kind. I'm not trying to pressure Jenna or make this about me. I've brought it up once and made it clear that I'm here to support her in whatever decision she makes. She has a wonderful therapist she trusts, and I'll continue to be there for her in every way I can. Update 5. Hey everyone, thank you for the overwhelming response to my last post. I truly appreciated all the comments and advice. Some were incredibly helpful, others were a bit harsh, but it is what it is. Things have taken a disappointing turn, but we finally have some clarity. Here is the update you have been waiting for. First and foremost, my wife was right all along. The cancer story? Complete and utter nonsense. It was nothing more than an elaborate scheme to manipulate us. The same evening I wrote my last post, I sat down with my wife and told her that I was here for her if she ever wanted to talk about any of it. I reassured her that no matter what decision she made, I would stand by her. She thanked me, and we left it at that, for the moment. After her next therapy session, she said she was ready to talk and wanted to dig deeper before deciding what to do. She reached out to a trusted mutual connection to discreetly verify if the cancer story was true. The findings? My in-laws were perfectly healthy. In fact, they were planning a luxurious European vacation for August, and, apparently, they were even telling people that we would be joining them. As if that was not bad enough, my wife's sister, Mary, was also supposed to go on this trip with her much older, wealthy new boyfriend. Shockingly, they had not even told anyone about the major fallout we had with them last year. Instead, they fabricated a story about us moving away for work. At that moment, any hope of reconciliation was completely crushed. I have never seen Jenna, my wife, so furious in my entire life. The audacity of lying about something as serious as terminal cancer to manipulate her forgiveness was beyond appalling. Reading through the comments on my last post was also eye-opening. Apparently, this kind of behavior is not as uncommon as I thought. Some people even call it Christmas cancer. It is baffling how low people can stoop. This past weekend, Jenna decided to take action. She wrote a heartfelt yet firm letter to her family. In it, she called them out for lying and made it clear that, as far as she was concerned, they and Mary were already dead to her. She explained that she had processed her grief over them and recommended they do the same. The letter also warned that any further attempts to contact her would be met with a legal response. Writing that letter was cathartic for her, and for that, we are grateful for at least one small positive outcome. However, there was one lingering mystery. How did they find out about our baby and get our address? Public records could explain the address, but we had been incredibly cautious about sharing any details about the baby. Even the mutual connection Jenna reached out to had no idea about her existence until Jenna called. This has left us feeling deeply unsettled. A few days ago, we went over to my parents' house for dinner. During the conversation, Jenna began recounting everything that had happened. As she spoke, I noticed my mother avoiding eye contact. My stomach dropped. I asked her outright if she had been the one to contact my in-laws, and her response shattered me. She broke down, sobbing, saying she could not bear the thought of not knowing her own grandchild and just wanted us all to heal and come together as a family. My dad, who had no idea she had reached out to them, was visibly shocked and disappointed. I, on the other hand, was livid. I completely lost my temper while Jenna seemed to emotionally shut down. I do not even remember half the things I said, but I ended with something along the lines of, "Now you will know what it feels like not to have access to your grandchild, just like my in-laws." We grabbed the baby and left immediately, ignoring the barrage of calls and text messages that followed, including those from my siblings. Now, both Jenna and I are feeling deeply betrayed and heartbroken. Never in a million years did I think my own mother would violate our trust in this way. She has always been incredibly close to Jenna and absolutely adores our baby. My family is well aware of what my in-laws did, so ignorance is not an excuse here. Jenna, surprisingly, is advocating for us not to make any hasty decisions about cutting my mother off. She believes my mother's actions, while misguided, were not malicious, and thinks she deserves a second chance. Deep down, I know she is probably right. My mother has always been supportive of us until this incident. But right now, the wound is still too fresh for me to think clearly. For now, we have asked for space, and my family is respecting that request. We plan to take the weekend to process everything before deciding on our next steps. Despite the chaos, there is one bright spot in all of this: our baby. Her giggles and silly noises make it nearly impossible to stay upset for too long. She is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is still so much to be thankful for. Rebuilding trust with my mother will not be easy, but for the first time in days, I feel a small glimmer of hope that things might eventually be okay. As always, thank you for your advice and support. It means the world to us. My wife's sister, a model, flirted with me for 6 years, then tried to kiss me in the garage. She cut ties with her toxic family and focused on healing and therapy.